What's going on, guys? I am in London. Well, I'm actually not in London, I'm on a boat, but I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna explain that at some point in the future. But today's episode is from London because I'm in London for a conference called WTM. And I wanted to make this video about how to find work as a travel photographer at a conference. Because in the past, when I was making my full-time income from travel photography, it was conferences where I found the vast majority of my work. In fact, one year, I got all my work for an entire year from one conference over 3 days. So it can be massive for your business. So I'm gonna take you to the conference and I'm gonna talk about kind of the process of how it works. But first, this video is sponsored by squarespace.com. So if you're looking for a website to host your travel photography, head to squarespace.com/BrendanVanson and you'll get a discount. Now let's get to the conference. So trade shows like this, there's kind of like 4 ways, I guess, in which you can pitch yourself, and they're all good. They all have their benefits, but they definitely have their varying degrees of success. So the first way is to organize meetings. At WTM, it's really easy. There's a whole meeting platform. So you kind of target whoever you want to have a chat with. You send a meeting request and they either accept or deny it. Quite often they deny it, but that's okay. And then when you do have the meetings, you have the chance to pitch yourself. And sometimes you get work. So I just had a meeting with Northern Portugal. It went quite well. And now I'm gonna go on to the next step, which is cold calling. And I hate cold calling. So cold calling, you can see behind me all these desks. These are of like hotels, but there's also tourism boards, obviously, airlines, everybody who is trying to sell anything is here. Cold calling is hard. Essentially, you're walking up to a booth that's vacant and just pitching yourself really, really quickly to whoever's at that booth. And sometimes you get lucky, like I just went up to the Algarve booth and I got the director of tourism. It was just total chance and luck that I got their business card. And the goal there is to kind of elevator pitch them. Give them a pitch in less than a minute, 30 seconds if you can do it. And hopefully they'll remember you, hopefully they'll be interested in what you say, and then with that business card you can reach them via email. So cold calling's hard. It takes a little bit of bravery, it takes a lot of rejection, and it takes a lot of cold shoulder because these people get cold called, cold pitched all day for like 4 days. So they kind of just look at you and they just like, they almost give you a blank face like, who is this dude? Until you can give them something to turn their heads. I find having a unique selling point is the biggest thing. If you can say, this is the reason you need to be listening to me right now, without saying it that cocky, that really, really works. The third way of getting work at a trade show is kind of something I've never tried before, but something I'm hearing more and more people doing, which I'm calling business card chasing. And what they're doing in this situation is they're going to as many booths as they can, and they're not trying to get the director of tourism or the director of PR, or they're not trying to get big names. They're just trying to get business cards. So, for example, walking past Visit Orlando, hello. Visit Orlando over there, one of the things you might want to do is walk up to the Visit Orlando booth or Las Vegas right there and just ask for the business card of, you know, the PR person. Trying to get the business card of the person you're trying to reach. If you're a photographer, it's probably the media person. Getting that business card and then pitching them later via email. It's really efficient to do it that way. You can collect a lot of business cards in a day without getting turned down a lot. And then you can pitch them all later in a much safer way via email, a less scary way as well via email. But I don't know how effective that is. I have heard people say they love doing it that way and that it's effective, but I've personally never tried it. But yeah, those are like the 3 main ways. And then the last way is probably the most fun. So listen when Simon says better lose your man, we should run away together while we still can. Simon says better lose your man, we should run away. So in all honesty, one of the best ways to get work or jobs as a photographer at a at a travel trade show is networking, and a lot of networking happens with friends. We're at a Borderless live event with a bunch of friends. There's beers, sometimes there's coffee, and yeah, it's a really good way to find work. The reality is, yes, you find work from business meetings, but in any industry you find just as much work, you know, having a beer with some friends. So yeah, we're at the event, having a beer, probably gonna hit up a pub, and in all my trade shows, I find just as much work doing this casually as I do in serious business meetings. So the conference went awesome. It was really good. I didn't actually have a whole lot of meetings because I wasn't prepared. And that's the thing I kind of want to talk about is you need to be prepared. I didn't have a lot of meetings not only because I wasn't prepared, but because I'm so busy in the next year, I didn't really need the work. I kind of wanted to network at WTM. But if you need the work, you have to do the planning before you go. You can't just rock up and hope that people are gonna give you work. You need to do meetings. And I only have experience with 2 conferences, WTM in London and ITB in Berlin. But in both those conferences, getting meetings works the same way. You apply for the conference as either media or trade, depending on what you are. I'm kind of both, media as a blogger, YouTuber, and trade as a photographer, so I could apply for either. But you apply for either, and then when you do that, it gives you access to the database. And then once you're in the database, you can see all the other people that are there, or you can at least see all the exhibitors. And the exhibitors are the ones you want to talk to. They're tourism boards, they're airlines, they're hotel chains, they're things like that, they're tour companies. And those are the people you probably want to pitch. So once you have access to all the exhibitors, you then go through the exhibitors and you can send them messages. On the ITB platform, you have to physically write a message and then they'll kind of write you back a potential meeting time if they agree to your pitch. On the WTM system, it's really cool actually. You can like send a meeting request and then they'll just go to your schedule of availability and they'll plug in a time for you. So you kind of send a micro pitch, like a super quick pitch about who you are, what you do, pitch yourself, and then hopefully they'll want to organize a meeting with you that you can give them the bigger pitch. Those meetings, they tend to last between 10 minutes and 20 minutes in my experience, sometimes a little bit longer. Generally, those meetings are kind of like a first date. You're talking to each other, you're trying to figure out if you like each other and that if you can work together. Then after that, you'll probably try to organize some sort of conference call or email to, then go on a second date, aka a work project where you get paid. So having those meetings is super important. In fact, cold calling, which is like the second option, which is what I did a little bit, it's hard and it sucks. And it can be demoralizing and full of rejection. It's basically like my college love life. It's hard, it really is. I ran into another photographer who was basically just cold calling the whole week, and I ran into him after day 1, I believe, and he just looked beat up because it is hard. You just get constant rejection and you're constantly getting the cold shoulder because people at these conferences, they get pitched so much that they get like pitch apathy. They just don't even listen anymore. And unless you have like something super unique or a really good selling point or something that just jumps at them, they kind of just don't listen, or they kind of like half listen. So if you're gonna cold call, you need to have something. You need to be like, this is the reason you want to work with me, because I'm really cool because of this, or because I'm really valuable because of that. And if you don't have that, maybe it's not even worth your time cold calling. Maybe it's worth your time to just run around and collect as many business cards as you can to then email pitch as many people as you can. So yeah, cold calling's tough, and in my opinion, the most effective way to do it is just find those business meetings the best you can, or get those business meetings the best you can. Now, the final thing I have to say is you need a website. You need a website. If you're a photographer, you can't just get away with having 500px or Instagram or Pinterest or Flickr. You can't have just that. They don't look professional. What business do you know that doesn't have a website? And I really think that it's so important to start seeing yourself as a business rather than as a photographer. Because that's how brands and potential clients want to look at you. They want to see a business. They want to see value. And having a website is like step 1 to having a good business. So get yourself a website. And as I mentioned, this video is sponsored by squarespace.com. They are phenomenal. and they have such good templates. It makes it so easy to make a professional website. So if you're looking for a place to house a website and you need to do something quick, go do it. Your business needs it. And if you go do it, use squarespace.com/Brendan Vanson. There's a link in the description to go do that. Now, I'm on a boat. As I mentioned, I'm on a boat in the future because I'm networking and because I'm going to Brazil. But there's still a bunch of vloggy stuff coming up. I'm headed to Andorra before I get on this boat. I know, random. Yep, that's my life. And yeah, thanks for following along with my crazy life. And I'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.